Welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He is at BChad50. Josh Shepherdson talking about tonight's action on FanDuel, of course. GPPs, cash games, and as you know, there's a game in Coors Field tonight, as we might as well just go ahead and get that out of the way right off the bat. 10-run total there. You got John Lackey coming into town in this one. So a pretty good pitcher. He gets David Hale on the other side, not such a good pitcher, but keep that in mind as we go through here. Of course, a lot of Coors guys going to be in play. But as we start here at pitcher, your top option is your top option for a reason. You and I agree he's the top option and isn't particularly close. Chris Sale, minus 145 favorite, lowest run total of the night at 7 runs. Taking on a Houston team that has a huge strikeout rate against left-handed pitching. And Sale, all he's done in his last 5 starts are 13, 12, 10, 7, and 11 strikeouts. He is your cash game pitcher. Don't overthink this one.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Sale, opposing Lance McCullers, so it's not a shoo-in that he's going to get that W. Usually we like a bigger favorite in cash games, but it's hard to be too critical of Chris Sale. The thing is the floor is so high with him. With the Astros striking out in 24% of their plate appearances against lefties this year, there's a really good chance you're going to get double-digit strikeouts from Chris Sale tonight. So if you're getting that, you're getting innings, you're not giving up many earned runs, it's not going to matter whether he gets the win or not. Obviously, you'd like the win, but he can deliver at his price tag even without the W, as long as he's getting those strikeouts, and we certainly expect that. So Chris Sale, top cash games option. The only other option that I would consider, and not for very long, is A.J. Burnett. He's $1,700 less. He's a slightly bigger betting favorite. He's been excellent this year. Ranks in the top 30 in FIP, xFIP, strikeout rate. Like, he's been very good. He keeps the ball on the ground. He faces a bad Brewers offense. Doesn't have the strikeout upside that Sale does. Probably a little bit more likely to get the W because he's not opposing as talented a pitcher as Sale is. But the only reason you'd be making that move is if you really need to invest in bats at Toronto or at Coors Field tonight. And I just think between the games and some of these other totals, you don't need to save that 1,700. You're going to have enough options. You're going to have some cheap punts that are going to be worth using as hitters to get that elevated floor of Sale. So I'm going Sale. Burnett looks good. And then in GPPs, Lance McCullers, we've already mentioned him. He's opposing Sale. I don't love McCullers. I do like him. His control issues haven't reared their ugly head in the big leagues yet, but this is a guy who walked a few too many batters for my liking in the minors. Big strikeout rate so far in the big leagues, but actually has a below league average swinging strike rate. So I'm not totally in love with him, but the White Sox offense is really bad, and it's bad against right-handed pitching. So at $6,700, McCullers is definitely going to be a very popular GPP play tonight.
Yeah, and I'll throw out one more guy that pitched actually well against this team, which we did not think he would, and I'm still going to target him some spots, but Mike Leake did go 8 innings at Philadelphia, 9 Ks against this same team. So seems with him he's either really good or really bad. Not a whole lot of in between. Not a guy you feel great about, but at under 6K, if you want to swerve off McCullers, who's going to be a really popular play, can do really similar things with your lineup too. All right, moving on here to catcher. You're going to be wanting to get yourself some Coors exposure on the cheap where you can. This is one of the places where you can do it. Nick Hundley's $2,700 if he's in the lineup. Michael McHenry at $3K if he's in the lineup. Yadi Molina at $3K. We talked before the show. Just not enough power, even in Coors, to really have us interested in him. But at $3K, I know you are looking at, and I am, of course, as well, Russell Martin at home at the Rogers Center.
Yeah, and I would say that's the biggest deterrent to using Yadi or Molina is you can grab Martin for the exact same price. You're going to get great park factors at the Rogers Center, and he's facing a bad left-handed pitcher in Brad Hand. I mean, Hand is not a good pitcher. You're going to want to get a lot of these Blue Jays hitters against him. They are the best offense in baseball against left-handed pitching, so grabbing any pieces that you can is definitely advisable. Looking down a little bit cheaper, I like min-salary teammate of Russell Martin, Diana Navarro. I actually hit in front of Russell Martin on Sunday, so going to have a decent lineup spot. Hits left-handed pitching fairly well as a switch hitter. So I like Navarro. It's great salary relief. He's a guy that I'm going to be immediately hooking with Chris Sale on all my cash games lineups because he immediately gives you that salary relief without sacrificing much at the position. And then the only other name that I'm looking at really is Sal Perez at $2,400. Not as good against right-handed pitching as he is against left-handed pitching, but he does get to exploit Phil Hughes struggles with right-handed batters. Hughes actually owns a reverse platoon split. He's much better against lefties than righties. So while Sale is better against lefties than righties, you get to exploit the weakness of Hughes. So I do like him at $2,400 as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think I'll be slotting Navarro in, like you said, with Sale in my cash games, assuming he's in the lineup. Just makes a lot of sense. One of the highest team totals of the day at men's salary, right in the heart of that order. Just makes a lot of sense. Moving on to first base, you and I agree. Adrian Gonzalez is the guy you really want. Ruby De La Rosa, very good against righties. Pretty much the opposite against lefties. Terrible against lefties. 3.9K for him. Obviously at home, not the best ballpark, but Adrian Gonzalez cares not what ballpark he's in this type of matchup. So if I could fit him in my cash games, that's the guy that I want.
Yeah, definitely the top position. Top option at the first base position. In GPPs, if you want to pivot off of him, $3,900 Freddie Freeman's going to be under-owned because he costs the same as Gonzalez, and Gonzalez figures to be the more popular pick. $3,500 Jose Abreu continues to be underpriced. Another GPP option because McCullers is going to be so popular. As you said before the show, if he goes deep, you're going to put yourself ahead of the field a little bit because McCullers is going to be so popular, and that's going to drive Abreu's ownership down. I really like Eric Hosmer at $3,300 a lot. He's hitting right-handed pitching very well. He's $3,300, so he does give you some salary relief from the top plays at the position. Allows you to spend at maybe a shortstop, foreshadowing a little bit for later. But some of the other options at first base that we both like, Ryan Howard against Mike Leake at Great American Ballpark. Great ballpark for hitting for power. Leake struggles with lefties. Adam Lind, if you're not using A.J. Burnett, $2,800 is a good price point to get a left-handed batter against a pitcher who struggles a bit with left-handed batters. And then there was a name that you really like at Coors Field, at least as a GPP play for super cheap. Why don't you give the listeners the all-or-nothing slugger at the first base position that you like a little bit?
Yeah, and considering it's FanDuel, it might be all or less than nothing. But Mark Reynolds at 2.8K. Obviously, he should be forced in a lineup tonight with Matt Adams on the DL. And we know he's got big-time power. He also strikes out a lot, but an out's an out on FanDuel. So if he gets a hold of one, easily going to pay off that price tag. And I don't think he's going to be that. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be highly owned, but I think there will be plenty of people with exposure to him, considering his price tag and being in Coors Field. All right. Other options, first base, not a whole lot to love. Yonder Alonso's been hitting the ball really well since he came back up. If you look at his way at $3,100, he's an interesting play as well. That's about it for me at first base. By the way, Edwin Encarnacion, if he is on lineup, certainly a great play. Matches left-handed pitching, that whole lineup does, as you mentioned. And if he's not, and Justin Smoke is in, you get him at 2.5K, assuming he would be at first base. But that's it's all hearsay at this point. We got to see who's actually going to be in that lineup. All right, second base, your obvious top option, Brian Dozier against the lefty. If you want to pay up, but at 4.3K, you want exposure to Coors, you want good pitching. Going to be hard to get that and pay 4.3K for Brian Dozier. So there's a guy at 2.8K you mentioned. I think that's the way I'm going to end up going in cash as well. Neil Walker obviously gets a right-handed pitcher today, hitting from the left side. That's the side you want him hitting from. And at that price, he's by far the best option in that range because there's not a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, I mean, as far as sub $3,000 second baseman, there's only one other one to consider. It's a guy that you mentioned, and it's a guy that I like as well. Chase Utley, $2,700. I'm going to find that extra $100 to get Walker, but if by some chance I can't, Utley's a fine play. Otherwise, my favorite play is $3,600 Colton Wong leading off at Coors Field against David Hale. Hale struggles with left-handed batters, so he's a pretty good get. I think if you're going to use Dozier, it's going to have to be on a Lance McCullers or Mike Leake GPP team. I just can't see him being the right choice when you've got other better per dollar options at the position if you're going to use Sale or, say, A.J. Burnett, for instance. I'm going to have to save somewhere, and second base is a good place to do it without sacrificing offensive talent.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. I don't see need to pay up a lot there in cash. Third base, we're going to give you two options from the same team as we always do when they face a lefty. Josh Donaldson, if you're paying $4,800. Danny Valencia, $2,300. Had similar output last time they faced a lefty a couple days ago. I think, obviously, if you're playing Sale, you're not going to be able to get two big bats and Josh Donaldson. So, for me, I'm going Valencia, 2.3K, nearly minimum salary. And, I mean, he hits lefties, obviously not at the astronomical clip that Donaldson does, but for less than half the price, I'll take my chances with Valencia tonight.
Yeah, the other names that I'll throw out there, Matt Carpenter against a righty at Coors Field. You really have to like that. $4,300 is a $500 discount from Donaldson is certainly substantial. Similar price point, Todd Frazier. Cole Hamels is a tough left-handed pitcher, obviously, but Frazier can really hit the long ball, really good at Great American Ballpark, so I do like him against Hamels, at least in GPPs, not in cash games, just because you really are chasing that power there. I'm also looking at $2,400. I like Mike Moustakas. Like Hosmer, hits right-handed pitchers better than lefties, but also like Hosmer doesn't get to stand in the preferred batter's box against Hughes. Hughes is tougher on lefties than righties. So I am a fan of Moustakas at $2,400. If you are concerned about Valencia losing that last plate appearance, as a guy that's a platoon guy, occasionally gets lifted for a pinch hitter late, Moustakas is a nice guy to spin off, and kind of a little bit more expensive than that, but $2,600 Trevor Plouffe is really nice against the left-hander. Jason Vargas doesn't have a huge platoon split, but you got to really like what Trevor Plouffe is able to do against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll throw out Maikel Franco as well. $2,900 gets. He's obviously a righty against Mike Leake. Mike Leake better, much better against righties and lefties. But Franco's been on fire. Had a couple home runs against the same team at home a couple weeks ago, or a week or so ago. So he's certainly in play as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Shortstop here, Troy Tulowitzki or Johnny Peralta. Take your pick, whichever side you want. Those are your obvious top two options. Get whichever one you can. I'm going to try to get Tulo, but I think Johnny Peralta is a fine swerve. If you're paying down from there, there's really no one I feel great about. I always tend to go back to Andrelton Simmons if he's batting second, $2,300. Don't mind him. What other guys are you thinking about here?
Alcides Escobar at $2,300. He does get the right-handed side of facing Hughes, so you got to like him a little bit at $2,300. Hits leadoff, so he's got that really cushy lineup spot. And if Hughes is messy today, he'll be in a good spot to score some runs. So if I'm not paying up for $48 or $4,000 for Peralta or Tulowitzki, you really better be saving money, and those are really the only two guys that I'm looking at.
Absolutely. As we look to the outfield, once again, it's going to be a Toronto bat up at the top. Jose Bautista, $4,900 is going to be your top option. You mentioned a guy with actually the same price tag you think is a nice swerve. So who are you looking at as an alternative to the popular Bautista tonight?
Well, Stanton's actually going to be opposing him at the Rogers Center, so he's going to be hitting with the same sweet right-handed batter park factors. And after coming out of Coors with a couple of messy performances, maybe his ownership's down a little bit, but he does get to face homer-prone Marco Estrada, so you got to like the home run hitter against the homer-prone pitcher a little bit, and I think Bautista's going to be more heavily owned, so if you want to spin off of Bautista and get a slightly lower-owned guy with a very similar ceiling, I'm looking at Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, I'm with you. And a GPP wouldn't be too bad of an idea to go ahead and get both those guys in there with a cheap pitcher. Get yourself some huge upside. Other options, going back to the Toronto game, Chris Colabello, you and I both love him. He's 2.9K. Of course, Jock Peterson, a lefty. Against Ruby De La Rosa as well. And then tell me about a couple of these other guys that you're looking at here.
I'm looking at two bats from Coors Field, teammates, outfielders Charlie Blackmon and Carlos Gonzalez. Of the two, I actually like Gonzalez at $3,700 more than I like $4,100 Charlie Blackmon. I think 41's just a little bit steep for what Blackmon is. He's a very good hitter against right-handed pitchers at home, but you either need that stolen base or you're going to need multiple hits from him because he doesn't have great power, has more good than great power. Cargo seems to be heating up. I do like what he's done in his career at Coors Field against right-handed pitching, so I'm definitely a big fan of him. Jason Hayward at 33 is just a little bit rich for my blood based on his lineup spot. If by chance he has moved up into a more prominent role in that offense, then I'll start considering him at $3,300, but otherwise I think he's just a little bit too pricey. I will not be using teammate Matt Holliday. David Hale, not a good pitcher, but not bad against right-handed batters, so not a great matchup for Holliday at his old stomping grounds. Otherwise, I'm looking at, as you said, I really like Chris Colabello. $2,700 Andre Ethier appears to be locked in as that third outfielder with Puig and Jock Peterson. Much better fielder than Alex Guerrero, the converted infielder that looks the part as an infielder in the outfield. So I expect Ethier to be in there. You get a left-handed bat against Ruby De La Rosa. You got to like that quite a bit. And what other names are you looking at?
I'm throwing out Adam Eaton, $2,800. He's hitting the ball really well right now. Should be batting, of course, at the top of that order. And once again, I think he's in a fine spot despite being against Lance McCullers. And like we said again, people are going to be on McCullers. So if you can get yourself some White Sox bats and they pay off, it's going to help you in a big way. $2,300 Odubel Herrera, if he's in the lineup tonight with a nice lineup spot. Don't mind him. A cheap lefty against Mike Leake. You're not looking for the home run he hit in his last game. What you're looking for is a double or a triple into the gap. Not a guy with much power, so you're certainly not chasing that. But I do like that. You mentioned some St. Louis bats. Randall Grichuk at $2,900 if he's in the lineup. Peter Borges, any of those guys around there. If you want some cheap Coors exposure, that's going to be your way to go. And as far as other really cheap guys, there is nothing that I feel comfortable with tonight.
No, really, the $2,300 price range stinks tonight. One of the other cheap-ish names that I like, $2,700 Lorenzo Cain. He gets to hit in a good spot in that Royals lineup. He's right-handed against Hughes, which is always good. And he actually does fairly well against right-handed, same-handed pitching opponents. So I do like Lorenzo Cain just a little bit tonight.
Absolutely. And with that, that's going to wrap things up for us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also come to dailyfantasycafe.com and check out all of our great content for tonight's slate and every other slate.